This is Mental Forge, where weakness burns and warriors are built. What if I told you that the greatest secret to wealth was discovered nearly a century ago by a man who spent 25 years studying the most successful people in America? What if this secret has been hiding in plain sight, documented in books that have sold millions of copies, yet most people who read these words never truly grasp their power? Today, we're going to unlock Napoleon Hill's ultimate secret to wealth, not just the surface-level concepts that most people think they understand, but the deeper psychological and spiritual principles that actually create lasting prosperity. This isn't about get-rich-quick schemes or surface-level positive thinking. This is about the fundamental rewiring of your mind for wealth creation. Napoleon Hill spent 25 years of his life studying 500 of America's most successful individuals, including Andrew Carnegie, Henry Ford, Thomas Edison, Theodore Roosevelt, and John D. Rockefeller. What he discovered wasn't just a collection of business strategies. It was a comprehensive understanding of how the human mind creates wealth when properly directed and conditioned. The secret Hill uncovered is simultaneously the simplest and most profound principle ever documented about wealth creation. It's so simple that when you first hear it, you might dismiss it. It's so profound that when you truly understand and apply it, it will transform not just your bank account, but your entire relationship with abundance, success, and your own capabilities. The foundation: understanding true wealth. Before we dive into Hill's secret, we must first understand what wealth actually means in the context of his discoveries. When most people think of wealth, they think of money. But Hill discovered that money is merely the physical manifestation of something far more powerful, particular state of consciousness. True wealth, according to Hill's research, begins in the mind. It starts with a specific way of thinking that automatically attracts opportunities, resources, and circumstances that lead to material abundance. This isn't mystical thinking, it's practical psychology applied with precision and consistency. Consider the case of Andrew Carnegie, the steel magnate who became one of the richest men in American history. When Hill first met Carnegie, the industrialist posed a challenge: spend 20 years studying successful people and document the principles that create wealth, without any guarantee of compensation. Most people would have seen this as an unreasonable request. Carnegie saw something different in Hill's response. He saw a mind that could grasp the true nature of wealth creation. Carnegie himself had started as a poor Scottish immigrant, working in a cotton factory for $1.20 per week. Yet he became wealthy beyond imagination. The difference wasn't luck, connections, or even superior intelligence. The difference was his understanding and application of specific mental principles that Hill would later document. The hidden psychology of wealth creation. Hill's research revealed that wealthy individuals share certain psychological patterns that separate them from those who struggle financially. These patterns aren't accidental, they're the result of deliberate mental conditioning that can be learned and applied by anyone willing to do the work. The first pattern is what Hill called definiteness of purpose. Every wealthy person he studied had developed an obsessive clarity about exactly what they wanted to achieve. This wasn't casual goal setting, it was a burning, consuming desire that influenced every decision, every action, and every thought. Thomas Edison exemplified this principle perfectly. When Edison decided to create the incandescent light bulb, he didn't simply hope it would work. He declared with absolute certainty that he would succeed, then organized his entire life around making that declaration a reality. He failed over 10,000 times, but never once considered the possibility that his purpose wouldn't be achieved. This level of definiteness created a mental state that attracted the people, resources, and insights necessary for success. The second pattern Hill discovered was the power of specialized knowledge combined with organized planning. Wealthy individuals don't try to know everything. They become experts in one area, while building networks of people who provide complementary expertise. Henry Ford understood this principle intuitively. When a group of lawyers challenged Ford's intelligence during a lawsuit, questioning his general knowledge about history and current events, Ford responded with words that revealed his genius. "Why should I clutter my mind with general knowledge when I can hire specialists who know more about any subject than I could ever learn?" Ford understood that wealth comes not from knowing everything, but from knowing how to organize specialized knowledge toward a definite purpose. The secret revealed: the mastermind principle. Now we arrive at Hill's ultimate secret to wealth, the principle he called the mastermind. This concept is simultaneously the most important and most misunderstood of all his discoveries. The mastermind principle states that when two or more minds work together in harmony toward a definite purpose, they create a third, invisible mind that possesses capabilities beyond what any individual mind could achieve alone. This invisible mind has access to knowledge, insights, and creative power that transcends normal human limitations. But here's what most people miss about the mastermind principle. It's not just about business partnerships or networking. The most powerful mastermind alliance is the one you create within your own consciousness, the harmony between your conscious desires and your subconscious beliefs. Hill discovered that wealthy individuals had achieved perfect alignment between what they consciously wanted and what they subconsciously believed was possible. Their conscious mind provided direction and purpose, while their subconscious mind provided the creative power and automatic behaviors necessary to manifest their desires into physical reality. This internal mastermind alliance is what separates those who achieve lasting wealth from those who struggle despite having access to the same information and opportunities. Most people's conscious minds want wealth, but their subconscious minds are programmed with limitation, fear, and doubt. This internal conflict creates a state of mental chaos that repels the very opportunities and circumstances needed for wealth creation. The subconscious programming process. Hill spent considerable time studying how successful individuals had programmed their subconscious minds for wealth. What he discovered was that the subconscious mind accepts and acts upon any thought that is repeated with emotional intensity and unwavering faith. The wealthy individuals Hill studied had developed specific practices for implanting wealth consciousness into their subconscious minds. They didn't just think positive thoughts occasionally, they systematically conditioned their deeper mental processes through repetition, visualization, and emotional engagement. Consider the approach used by Charles M. Schwab, who became president of Carnegie Steel Company and later founded Bethlehem Steel. Schwab would spend 30 minutes each morning and 30 minutes each evening, visualizing himself successfully handling his business challenges. But this wasn't casual. Daydreaming, it was focused mental rehearsal conducted with the same intensity an athlete brings to physical training. During these sessions, Schwab would see himself making decisions with confidence, solving problems with creativity, and achieving his goals with certainty. He would engage all his senses in these mental movies, feeling the emotions of success, hearing the sounds of a thriving business, and experiencing the satisfaction of achievement. This daily practice programmed his subconscious mind to automatically generate the thoughts, insights, and behaviors necessary for extraordinary success. The key insight Hill derived from studying such practices was that the subconscious mind cannot distinguish between real experiences and vividly imagined experiences. When you repeatedly visualize success with sufficient emotional intensity, your subconscious mind begins to accept these mental images as reality and starts organizing your automatic behaviors to make them physically manifest. The faith component. Beyond positive thinking, one of the most misunderstood aspects of Hill's teachings concerns the role of faith in wealth creation. Modern interpretations often reduce this concept to simple positive thinking, but Hill's research revealed something far more sophisticated and powerful. The faith Hill discovered among wealthy individuals wasn't religious faith, though it shared some characteristics. It was a specific type of mental conviction and absolute certainty about the inevitability of achieving one's definite purpose. This faith wasn't based on evidence or logic. It was a decision to believe in success despite circumstances that might suggest otherwise. Hill found that this type of faith could be systematically developed through what he called autosuggestion, the practice of repeatedly affirming your desires with emotional conviction until your subconscious mind accepts them as fact. But the process required more than just reciting positive statements. It required a complete mental commitment to the reality of your success. Abraham Lincoln demonstrated this principle during the darkest periods of the Civil War. When virtually everyone around him counseled surrender or compromise, Lincoln maintained unwavering faith in the preservation of the Union. This wasn't blind optimism, it was a deliberate choice to believe in his desired outcome regardless of external circumstances. This faith created a mental state that attracted the strategies, allies, and resources necessary to achieve what seemed impossible. Hill discovered that this type of faith acts as a mental magnet. drawing to you the people and circumstances aligned with your dominant thoughts and beliefs. When you truly believe in your inevitable success, you unconsciously begin to notice opportunities that were always present but previously invisible to your awareness. The persistence principle, transmuting failure into success. Every wealthy individual Hill studied had faced significant failures and setbacks. What distinguished them wasn't the absence of failure, but their response to temporary defeat. Hill discovered that persistence, the sustained effort in pursuit of a definite purpose, was perhaps the most critical factor in long-term wealth creation. But Hill's concept of persistence went beyond simple determination. He found that successful individuals had learned to transmute temporary failures into stepping stones toward eventual success. They possessed a mental framework that automatically converted setbacks into learning experiences and obstacles into opportunities for growth. Thomas Edison embodied this principle throughout his career. When a massive fire destroyed his laboratory and years of research, Edison's response revealed the mindset that creates wealth. All our mistakes are burned up. Thank God we can start anew. Instead of seeing the fire as a devastating loss, Edison immediately began planning an even better laboratory. Within 3 months, he had not only rebuilt, but had created his most successful inventions. Hill discovered that this ability to transmute failure into success was a learned skill, not an innate talent. Wealthy individuals had trained themselves to ask different questions when faced with setbacks. Instead of asking, "Why did this happen to me?" they asked, "What can I learn from this experience?" Instead of focusing on what went wrong, they focused on what needed to be adjusted for future success. This mental reframing wasn't just psychological comfort, it was a practical strategy that kept their minds focused on solutions rather than problems. Hill found that the human mind cannot simultaneously focus on problems and solutions. Those who trained their minds to automatically seek solutions in every situation developed what he called success consciousness, a mental state that attracts successful outcomes. The auto-suggestion technique, programming your success. Hill's research revealed that all wealthy individuals, whether consciously or unconsciously, had mastered the art of auto-suggestion, the process of influencing the subconscious mind through repeated, self-directed thoughts and affirmations. But the auto-suggestion practiced by successful people wasn't the casual positive thinking promoted by many self-help approaches. It was a systematic, disciplined practice conducted with specific techniques designed to bypass the conscious mind's natural skepticism and directly influence subconscious programming. Hill documented a precise method for effective autosuggestion based on his study of successful individuals. The process required stating your definite purpose in writing, with specific details about exactly what you intended to achieve and by what date. But the critical element was the emotional intensity with which these statements were repeated. John D. Rockefeller, who became America's first billionaire, demonstrated this principle in his early years as a bookkeeper. Despite earning only $16 per month, Rockefeller would spend time each evening visualizing himself as a successful businessman, feeling the emotions of success, and affirming his intention to create wealth through ethical business practices. This wasn't mere fantasy, it was systematic mental conditioning. Rockefeller understood that his current circumstances were temporary, but his mental programming would determine his future reality. By consistently feeding his subconscious mind images and emotions of success, he was creating the internal conditions that would later manifest as external wealth. The key insight Hill derived from studying such practices was that the subconscious mind responds most powerfully to thoughts that are charged with emotion. Mere intellectual repetition of positive statements has little impact on deep mental programming. But when you combine repetition with genuine emotional engagement, feeling the joy, excitement, and satisfaction of achieving your goals, the subconscious mind begins to accept these suggestions as reality. The organized planning strategy. Hill discovered that wealthy individuals shared a common approach to converting their desires into practical plans of action. They didn't simply hope for success, they developed detailed, flexible strategies for achieving their definite purposes. This organized planning involved several key elements that Hill documented extensively. First, successful individuals would write down their definite purpose with complete clarity and specificity. They would then determine exactly what they were willing to give in exchange for achieving their purpose, understanding that wealth comes through the exchange of value, not through wishful thinking. Next, They would establish definite dates for achieving their objectives, creating urgency and focus in their planning process. They would create detailed plans for reaching their goals, identifying the specific steps, resources, and timelines required for success. But perhaps most importantly, they would form mastermind alliances with others whose cooperation was essential for achieving their purposes. Hill found that no significant wealth was ever created in isolation. It always involved the coordinated efforts of multiple individuals working in harmony toward common objectives. Andrew Carnegie exemplified this principle through his approach to building his steel empire. Carnegie surrounded himself with specialists who possessed knowledge and skills that complemented his own abilities. He created a mastermind alliance that included experts in production, finance, marketing, and technology. Each member of this alliance was motivated not just by salary, but by a genuine stake in the success of the enterprise. Hill discovered that these mastermind alliances created what he called psychic energy, a collective mental force that generated insights, opportunities, and solutions that no individual mind could produce alone. When multiple minds focus intensely on the same objective, they create a reservoir of specialized knowledge and creative power that becomes available to each member of the alliance. The decision-making process of the wealthy. One of Hill's most significant discoveries concerned how successful individuals approached decision-making. He found that wealthy people made decisions quickly and changed them slowly, while unsuccessful people made decisions slowly and changed them quickly. This wasn't impulsiveness, it was the result of having developed clear criteria for evaluating opportunities and challenges. Wealthy individuals had trained themselves to recognize patterns and possibilities that escaped the attention of those without success consciousness. Hill studied the decision-making process of numerous successful individuals and found consistent patterns. First, they gathered essential information quickly and efficiently, focusing on facts rather than opinions. Second, they consulted with their mastermind alliance members when appropriate, but they never allowed others to make decisions for them. Third, they made decisions based on their definite purpose, ensuring that every choice moved them closer to their ultimate objectives. Perhaps most importantly, once they made decisions, they acted upon them with confidence and persistence. They understood that a good plan vigorously executed was superior to a perfect plan that was implemented hesitantly or inconsistently. Napoleon Bonaparte demonstrated this principle throughout his military and political career. Bonaparte could analyze complex situations rapidly and make strategic decisions that others found incomprehensible. But his genius wasn't in always making perfect decisions, it was in making good decisions quickly and then implementing them with absolute commitment. Hill discovered that this decisiveness created a mental momentum that attracted opportunities and resources. When others observed someone acting with confidence and determination, they were naturally drawn to support such efforts. Conversely, hesitation and uncertainty repelled the very assistance and cooperation necessary for significant achievement. The imagination factor, the workshop of the mind. Hill's research revealed that imagination was perhaps the most important faculty for wealth creation. But he distinguished between two types of imagination: synthetic imagination and creative imagination. Synthetic imagination involved recombining existing ideas, concepts, and plans into new arrangements. This was the type of imagination used by most inventors and entrepreneurs, taking known elements and organizing them in novel ways to create value. Creative imagination, however, involved accessing insights and ideas that seemed to come from beyond individual knowledge and experience. Hill found that the most successful individuals had learned to tap into this creative imagination through meditation, visualization, and what he called inspiration. Nikola Tesla exemplified both types of imagination in his approach to invention. Tesla would first use synthetic imagination to analyze existing electrical systems and identify opportunities for improvement. But his breakthrough innovations came through creative imagination insights that seemed to emerge from beyond his conscious knowledge. Tesla described his creative process as involving detailed mental visualization of his inventions before building physical prototypes. He would create complete mental models of his devices, test them mentally, make adjustments, and perfect them entirely in his imagination before moving to physical construction. This mental workshop allowed him to develop innovations that revolutionized electrical technology. Hill discovered that creative imagination could be systematically developed through specific practices. Regular meditation, focused visualization, and what he called the daily appointment with yourself created mental conditions conducive to creative insights. When individuals consistently set aside time for quiet reflection on their definite purposes, their minds began generating solutions and opportunities that seemed to come from outside their normal thinking processes. The enthusiasm and desire connection. Hill found that all successful individuals possessed what he called burning desire, an obsessive, consuming passion for achieving their definite purposes. This wasn't casual interest or mild preference, it was an emotional intensity that influenced every aspect of their thinking and behavior. This burning desire served multiple functions in the wealth creation process. First, it provided the emotional energy necessary to sustain effort through inevitable challenges and setbacks. Second, it created the mental focus that allowed successful individuals to recognize opportunities that others overlooked. Third, it generated the personal magnetism that attracted others to their causes and enterprises. Henry Ford demonstrated this principle throughout his career in the automobile industry. Ford's desire to create affordable transportation for the masses was so intense that it influenced every business decision he made. When others told him that automobiles would always be luxury items for the wealthy, Ford's burning desire for mass production drove him to develop revolutionary manufacturing techniques that made cars accessible to ordinary people. Hill discovered that this type of desire couldn't be artificially manufactured, had to be cultivated through consistent focus on the benefits and possibilities associated with achieving one's definite purpose. Successful individuals spent time daily visualizing not just their goals, but the feelings and experiences that would result from achieving those goals. This emotional engagement with future success created what Hill called success magnetism, a mental state that automatically attracted the circumstances, people, and opportunities necessary for achievement. When someone truly desired success with emotional intensity, they unconsciously began to notice and pursue paths toward their objectives that were invisible to those without such desire. The specialized knowledge principle. Hill's research revealed that general knowledge, no matter how extensive, had little value in wealth creation. What mattered was specialized knowledge that could be organized and directed toward definite purposes. But Hill made a crucial distinction. Successful individuals didn't necessarily possess specialized knowledge themselves. They knew how to access and organize the specialized knowledge of others. They understood that in the modern world, no individual could master all the knowledge necessary for significant achievement. Instead, wealthy individuals developed two critical skills: the ability to identify what specialized knowledge was needed for their purposes, and the ability to locate and organize others who possessed that knowledge. They became orchestrators of knowledge rather than repositories of information. J.P. Morgan exemplified this principle in his approach to finance and business. Morgan didn't attempt to become an expert in every industry he financed. Instead, he developed the ability to quickly assess the quality and potential of both businesses and the people who ran them. He organized networks of specialists who could provide detailed analysis of specific opportunities, while he focused on the broader strategic decisions that required his unique combination of experience and judgment. Hill discovered that this approach to specialized knowledge created several advantages. First, it allowed successful individuals to make decisions based on the best available expertise rather than their own limited knowledge. Second, it freed their mental energy to focus on coordination and strategy rather than technical details. Third, it created networks of relationships that became sources of future opportunities and partnerships. The key insight was that in the information age, the ability to organize and direct knowledge became more valuable than possessing knowledge itself. Those who mastered this skill could accomplish objectives that would be impossible for even the most knowledgeable individuals working in isolation. The sexual transmutation concept. One of Hill's most controversial discoveries concerned what he called sexual transmutation, the redirection of sexual energy toward creative and productive purposes. Hill found that the most successful individuals had learned to channel their sexual energy into their business and creative endeavors. This wasn't about suppression or denial of natural drives, it was about conscious redirection of powerful emotional energy toward achievement. Hill discovered that sexual energy was essentially creative energy, and when properly channeled, it could fuel extraordinary levels of productivity and innovation. The principle worked through the development of what Hill called controlled attention. When individuals learned to direct their emotional and creative energies toward their definite purposes, rather than dissipating them in random sexual expression, they experienced increased mental clarity, enhanced creativity, and greater persistence in pursuing their objectives. Hill studied numerous successful individuals who had mastered this principle and found consistent patterns in their approaches. They typically maintained active but controlled sexual lives, channeling the majority of their sexual energy into their work and creative pursuits during their most productive years. This redirection wasn't achieved through willpower alone. It required the development of consuming passion for achievement that naturally absorbed and transformed sexual energy into productive force. When someone became obsessed with creating value and achieving success, their sexual energy automatically began flowing toward those objectives. The practical application of this principle involved developing such intense focus on one's definite purpose that other activities and distractions naturally diminished in importance. This created a state of mental concentration that Hill found was essential for accessing creative imagination and maintaining the persistence necessary for significant achievement. The sixth sense, intuitive intelligence. Hill's most advanced discovery concerned what he called the sixth sense, a form of intuitive intelligence that successful individuals developed through the systematic application of his other principles. This sixth sense manifested as the ability to recognize opportunities, dangers, and possibilities that weren't apparent through normal analytical thinking. Hill found that this intuitive ability emerged naturally when individuals achieved harmony between their conscious desires and subconscious beliefs. When someone had successfully programmed their subconscious mind for success and maintained unwavering faith in achieving their definite purpose, they began receiving insights and guidance that seemed to come from beyond their normal thinking processes. This wasn't mystical or supernatural. Hill understood it as the result of the subconscious mind's ability to process and synthesize vast amounts of information below the threshold of conscious awareness. When properly programmed and directed, the subconscious mind could identify patterns and possibilities that the conscious mind couldn't recognize. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and philosopher, demonstrated this principle in his approach to leadership and decision-making. Aurelius would spend time in meditation and reflection, allowing his mind to process the complex information and challenges facing the empire. Through this practice, he developed an intuitive sense for effective strategies and policies that served him throughout his reign. Hill discovered that this sixth sense could be systematically developed through the consistent practice of his other principles. When individuals maintained definite purpose, developed burning desire, practiced autosuggestion, used organized planning, made quick decisions, exercised persistence, utilized imagination, and channeled their creative energies, they began experiencing insights and opportunities that seemed to arise spontaneously. The practical application framework. Understanding Hill's principles intellectually is only the beginning. The real value comes through systematic application in daily life. Hill developed a specific framework for implementing his discoveries that anyone could follow regardless of their current circumstances. The first step involves developing absolute clarity about your definite purpose. This isn't a casual goal-setting exercise. It requires deep reflection on what you truly want to achieve and why that achievement matters to you. Your definite purpose must be specific, measurable, and emotionally compelling enough to sustain effort through inevitable challenges. The second step involves writing down your definite purpose and reading it aloud twice daily, once upon waking and once before sleep. But this isn't mere recitation. You must engage your emotions and imagination, visualizing yourself having already achieved your purpose and experiencing the feelings associated with that success. The third step involves developing a detailed plan for achieving your purpose, including specific actions, timelines, and resources required. This plan should be reviewed and updated regularly as circumstances change and new opportunities emerge. The fourth step involves forming mastermind alliances with others whose cooperation and expertise can accelerate your progress. These alliances should be based on mutual benefit and shared commitment to each member's success. The fifth step involves developing the habit of making quick decisions based on available information and your definite purpose. This requires training yourself to gather essential facts efficiently and act with confidence despite uncertainty. The sixth step involves maintaining persistence in the face of temporary defeat. This means viewing setbacks as learning experiences and immediately beginning to plan your next attempt rather than dwelling on what went wrong. The seventh step involves systematic development of your imagination through regular visualization and creative problem-solving exercises. This creates the mental flexibility necessary to recognize and create opportunities for advancement. The modern application of timeless principles. Hill's discoveries remain as relevant today as they were when first documented nearly a century ago. The fundamental principles of human psychology and wealth creation haven't changed, only the specific methods and technologies through which these principles are applied. In today's digital economy, the mastermind principle operates through networks and partnerships that can span the globe instantly. The specialized knowledge principle is more critical than ever, as the pace of change requires constant learning and adaptation. The auto-suggestion principle can be enhanced through modern understanding of neuroscience and brain plasticity. Consider how someone like Elon Musk applies Hill's principles in the modern context. Musk demonstrates definite purpose through his clear vision for sustainable energy and space exploration. He applies the mastermind principle by surrounding himself with brilliant specialists in engineering, manufacturing, and business development. He shows persistence by continuing to pursue his objectives despite numerous setbacks and critics. Most importantly, Musk demonstrates burning desire and obsessive commitment to his purposes that influences every aspect of his thinking and behavior. This desire creates the mental magnetism that attracts the resources, talent, and opportunities necessary for achieving objectives that most people consider impossible. The key insight for modern application is that Hill's principles work regardless of economic conditions, technological changes, or social circumstances. They're based on fundamental aspects of human psychology that remain constant across time and culture. The wealth consciousness transformation. The ultimate secret Hill discovered wasn't a technique or strategy, was a complete transformation of consciousness, from limitation to abundance, from fear to faith, from reaction to creation. This transformation occurs when someone successfully applies his principles consistently over time. Wealth consciousness isn't about having money, it's about having the mental and emotional state that naturally attracts and creates wealth. People with wealth consciousness think differently about opportunities, challenges, relationships, and possibilities. They see abundance where others see scarcity, solutions where others see problems, and opportunities where others see obstacles. This transformation doesn't happen overnight, it's the result of systematic mental conditioning through the application of Hill's principles. But once achieved, wealth consciousness becomes a permanent part of someone's mental makeup, influencing their automatic thoughts, decisions, and behaviors in ways that consistently create value and attract abundance. The most successful individuals Hill studied had achieved this transformation so completely that creating wealth became as natural and automatic as breathing. They didn't have to struggle or strain to achieve success. Their programmed subconscious minds automatically generated the thoughts, insights, and behaviors necessary for continued prosperity. The action imperative. Knowledge without application remains merely potential. Hill's discoveries only create value when they're implemented with consistency and faith. The individuals he studied didn't achieve success by understanding his principles. They achieved success by living his principles until they became automatic parts of their mental and behavioral patterns. The transformation begins with a decision, a commitment to apply these principles regardless of current circumstances or past failures. This decision must be backed by burning desire and sustained by unwavering faith in the eventual achievement of your definite purpose. But the decision alone isn't sufficient. It must be followed by immediate action. Start today by writing down your definite purpose with complete clarity and specificity. Begin the practice of autosuggestion by reading your purpose aloud with emotional engagement twice daily. Form your first mastermind alliance with someone whose cooperation can advance your objectives. Most importantly, maintain absolute faith in your eventual success, regardless of temporary setbacks or external circumstances. Remember that every successful person Hill studied faced periods of doubt, failure, and discouragement. What separated them from those who quit was their decision to persist until their desires became reality. Hill's secret to wealth isn't complex, but it is complete. It requires the transformation of your entire mental approach to life, success, and abundance. When you commit to this transformation with the same intensity that successful individuals throughout history have demonstrated, you align yourself with forces that inevitably create the circumstances, opportunities, and resources necessary for achieving your definite purpose. The secret is revealed, the choice is yours, the time is now. Your wealth consciousness awaits activation through the systematic application of these timeless principles. Will you join the ranks of those who have discovered and applied Hill's secret? Or will you remain among those who know the theory but never experience the transformation? The answer to that question will determine not just your financial future, but the entire trajectory of your life. Choose wisely. Act decisively. Persist relentlessly. Your extraordinary life begins with your next decision. Champions, your mind has been forged a little stronger today, but the real test isn't what you learned, it's what you do with it. Take action, dominate your day, and remember, we're not just building better thoughts, we're forging unstoppable lives. The forge doesn't stop, and neither do you. If this episode hit you where it counts, subscribe to Mental Forge Academy and join the Brotherhood of Champions who refuse to settle for ordinary. Go transform, strike while the mind is hot.